On this day in history, January 10th, 1776, as part of the American Revolution, Thomas Paine publishes his pamphlet Common Sense. Included in the following is an excerpt from the 1944 edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica going over the history of the author. Thomas Paine, born 1737, died 1809, English author, was born at Thetford, Norfolk, the son of a Quaker stye-maker. After several years at sea and after trying various occupations on land, Paine took up his father's trade in London, where he supplemented his meager grammar school education for attending science lectures. He was given in 1762 an appointment in the excise, was discharged for neglect of duty in 1765, but on offering explanations and apologies, was restored, taking an appointment in 1768 at Lewes. His married life was unhappy, his finances became embarrassed, and in 1774 he left Lewes, losing his post, leaving his goods to his creditors, and separating from his wife. Encouraged by Benjamin Franklin, he sailed to America, where he arrived in November 1774 and was set to edit the Pennsylvania Magazine. On January 10th, 1776, he published Common Sense, a remarkable and powerful Republican pamphlet which had an immediate success. Written in simple, convincing language, it was read everywhere, and the open movement to independence dates from its publication. Washington said that it worked a powerful change in the minds of many men. When war was declared, and fortune at first went against the colonists, Paine, who was then serving with General Greene as volunteer aide-de-camp, wrote the first of a series of influential tracts called The Crisis, of which the opening words, "These are the times that try men's souls," became a battle cry. Paine's services were recognized by an appointment to the Secretary of the Commission, sent by Congress to treat with the Indians, and a few months later to be Secretary of the Congressional Committee of Foreign Affairs. In 1775, however, he indiscreetly published information gained from his official position, and was compelled to resign. He was afterwards clerk of the Pennsylvania legislature, and accompanied John Laurens during his mission to France. His services were eventually recognized by the state of New York by a grant of an estate at New Rochelle. From Congress he received considerable gifts of money. In 1787 he sailed for Europe with the model of an iron bridge he had designed, but his chief object was to repeat his American success. His first editors, in the Prospects of the Rubicon, 1787, were directed against Pitt's war policy. When Burke's Reflections on the Revolution in France appeared in 1790, Paine at once wrote his answer, The Rights of Man. The first part appeared on March 13, 1791, and had an enormous circulation before the government took alarm and endeavored to suppress it. Pitt used to say, according to Lady Hester Stanhope, that Tom Paine was quite in the right, but then he would add, "What am I to do? As things are, if I were to encourage Tom Paine's opinions, we should have a bloody revolution." Paine was indicted for treason in May 1792, but before the trial came off he was elected by the Department of Calais to the French Convention. William Blake, the poet, hustled him prudently out of England, and he took his seat in the French Convention. Paine, who understood neither the French language nor the dreadful difficulties of the Revolution, rapidly made himself unpopular with the Jacobins. He incurred the suspicion of Robespierre, was thrown into prison, and escaped the guillotine by an accident. Before his arrest, he had completed the first part of The Age of Reason, the publication of which made an instant change in his position on both sides of the Atlantic, the indignation in the United States being as strong as in England. The Age of Reason was written from the point of view of a Quaker who did not believe in revealed religion, but who held that all religions are in their nature mild and benign, when not associated with political systems. Mixed with the unceremonious ridicule of what he considered superstition are many passages of earnest and even lofty eloquence in favor of a pure morality found on natural religion. The work, in short, a second part, written during his 10 months' imprisonment, was published after his release, represents the deism of the 18th century in the hands of a rough, ready, passionate controversialist. At the downfall of Robespierre, Paine was restored to his seat in the convention and served until it adjourned in October 1795, his last speech being an effort to save universal suffrage. In 1796, he published a long letter to Washington, attacking his military reputation and his presidential policy with a bitterness due to his belief that Washington and the Americans had deserted him when in danger of death in France. In 1802, Paine sailed for America, but found his popularity extinguished. He died in New York on June 8, 1809, and his body was in 1819 removed to England by William Cobbett.